What is going on, everyone? This is Andrew O'Connell with Pristine Capital, coming at you with yet another market recap video. Today is November 20th, 2020. We finally made it past options expiration. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy this content, and I will continue to make it for you. Quick housekeeping. I have been having issues with my recording software, OBS, and that is why these videos have been getting out to you so late. So for today, I'm using Snagit. You can't see my face, but that's all right. And then over the weekend, I'm going to work on those technical issues. That way for next week, these videos can come out a lot quicker, just be a lot smoother for you guys. Today, we're going to be talking about the price action in the indices. We're going to look at the VIX. We're going to go under the hood and check out those sectors and style factors. A couple of the trades that I closed out today, and then we'll wrap up with some options order flow. But before we jump in, quick risk disclaimer. Nothing in this video should be construed as investment advice or recommendations. Please follow your own trading plan. And last but not least, do not YOLO your entire account into any one of my trades. So with that being said, let's jump right in. So we're going to start off with the headline indices. Today we had, some very choppy action. Really, this whole week has been very interesting because I came into this week with the mindset of, okay, we just had a really nice run after the presidential election. I want to be a lot more conservative and take off a lot of exposure and really just get myself in a good position for the following month. But ironically, I was able to stick to my discipline, but there were so many nice movers throughout this whole week. So who knows if it was really helpful or not. I guess we'll have to see next week. But the headline indices don't exactly tell the full story. So we had S&P 500 down 0.68% today. The Qs also down 0.68%. We had IWM leading up 0.11%. And we had the Dow Jones down 0.73%. So if we take a look at the action in the ES, I have been, over the past couple of days, just very concentrated on what is going on with the ES. So if you take a look, we hit our swing high. Our swing high came, 2 weeks ago on that Pfizer vaccine news. And really since then, we've been chopping sideways. Monday, we had a really nice push up. And then for the rest of the week, we really just kind of sagged and, didn't really do all that much. So you can see we're still above the key moving averages, the 20-day moving average, the 50-day. We are above the monthly value area, but we just recently closed below the 5-day exponential moving average. So in terms of the very fast moving averages, we are starting to roll over a little bit, which isn't really the end of the world, but it's just something you want to be cognizant of and stay on your toes. If we go into the hourly chart, I've been talking about this short-term downtrend for the past couple days. And really, we were trending toward this R1 pivot, for the first couple days of the week. Then with that New York City, or really just New York, closure news, we had a liquidation break and we took a stair step down. And then we really just continue to consolidate, at that lower level throughout the rest of the week. So at this point, it's not like it's, super bearish, but it's not really bullish either. So in the short term, things are very, very ambiguous. And you can see here, this is the weekly value area. We had been constantly testing the weekly point of control at 35.51. And you can see every time we hit that level, we wicked out and buyers came in to buy the dip. So, at certain points, like yesterday and today, it looked like, okay, we're going to be trading above that weekly value area, and the uptrend can resume. But every time we just ended up falling right back into this, consolidation zone. And you can see throughout the day today, again, for most of the day today, I was like, all right, are we just going to consolidate and then really just rip higher at the end of the day? But really in the last 30 minutes to an hour, we kind of just fell apart there. So you can see, again, we ended up wicking out and we saved the point of control. But right now we are really straddling that point of control. And, any push lower and suddenly, 35.22 is in play. And you can see here on my screen there's an 80% bearish rule. That rule is pretty much just, if you break into the value area from above, there's a very high likelihood that you're going to test the other side of the value area. So that's something I'm very cognizant of. And next week, actually, we're going to have a brand new value area for the week. And it's this, gray area right here. So you can see if we open, at 3,550, we're going to be opening below that weekly value area. So the price action, certainly, like, we're still in the intermediate to longer term bullish trend, but it looks like at least in the short term, things are a little bit more ambiguous. So for that reason, I took some exposure off throughout the beginning of the week. I have 2 hedges on the books. I have some IWM puts, and I have some Marriott Hotels puts. So I feel pretty comfortable with the way I'm, expressing my portfolio into next week. We'll just have to see what the river brings, but this is getting very interesting. And this is really what I love about trading, when you have these nuances. So let's take a look. We will check out, let's take a look at the Qs real quick. So we'll go to the daily chart. Yeah, because I didn't look at the Qs quite as much. Yeah, for the Qs, we are really straddling the line in terms of the monthly value area. So this one, above the monthly value area, I would consider like a bullish trend. But you can see, again, we're below the 5-day EMA. So I would not be surprised if we get a test of the top of value. Well, we'll have to see what next week brings. Let's see IWM. Sure enough, this is the one that I use as my hedge, given the news about some shutdowns. But it really does look like this one is showing some relative strength. And I think the rationale is like, these vaccines, there's nothing stopping them. Every day that passes is a day that we are getting closer to the vaccine being distributed and really, like, ending this COVID world that we've been in. So it just seems like IWM sort of has like a perma bid under it. So this is one where, if the broad market is weak, if the broad market gets very weak, I would expect that we might fall under the 5-day EMA. But next week, if the market is strong, I will likely be taking off my IWM hedge because that is not one that I want to stick with when it's showing relative strength. But luckily, I added my hedge, pretty close to the top here, and I time-stamped it. So I am still green on my hedge, which is good that I had, for this one, just very precise trade location. Now, if we look, we'll take a look at the Dow. The Dow and IWM have sort of decoupled within the past couple days, which is interesting. Yeah, this one very similar, below the 5-day EMA, really just consolidating. We'll see if we, test the value area high next week. So now in terms of, some trades that I closed out today, like I said in my note on Twitter earlier, I really just wanted to, guide the plane down safely, land the plane. Okay, before we jump into that, let's hit these sectors first. So let's see, we had, okay, this is very mixed. Yeah, this is telling a pretty different story. So if we look, these cyclicals that have been rallying, and really just like everything that's been very strong. We have energy towards the top of our list, European financials, cannabis, regional banks. All of those saw some profit taking. So that is interesting, where it's like, money was taken off the table from the sectors that have been working the most. The relative standouts were the solar energy ETF, and I have been on that in these videos. The solar ETF is such a nice theme into 2021. I do have January calls in this TAN ETF, as I said earlier. I just really like that theme. We had the next generation internet ETF up on the day, 1.88%. We had the innovative tech up as well. So it really looks like the main story of the day was, and this is what I was seeing on the tape too, the indices were doing like not so hot, but there were just these individual names that were absolutely ripping. So this is one where, like, if you were super diligent in terms of like day trading, scalping, a lot of people did really well on these. So let's take a look. So like we had, I'm just gonna pull up, a couple of the ones that, I'm pretty familiar with. Yeah, Etsy had a great day, but it looks like, some profit taking into the end of day. Let's see, Zoom. Yeah, Zoom, nice bounce here. This one, like, I certainly wouldn't get married to it in terms of it, like, revisiting the high. Because, like I said, like, the peak narrative for Zoom, every single day that passes, I think that narrative gets a little bit worse. Although I do think Zoom is a great company. But this one, yeah, it looks like it could be turning the corner. We'll have to see. And then let's take a look with Peloton. Yeah, Peloton also had a good day, but it looks like, sort of got stopped by the 20-day and 50-day moving averages. So yeah, as you can see, a lot of these, innovative tech companies have all had, nice runs. Looks like Datadog, not as much. Fastly. Yeah, this one turning the corner as well. But the one thing, and I brought your attention to this in yesterday's video, over the past couple days, people have made a lot of money in these innovative tech names. This is one where, like, even Fastly, Fastly's looking pretty solid. It's had, like, a nice, like, 2-week run here. But in the grand scheme of things, when you look, this could very well just be a counter trend bounce. So, like, you just want to be cognizant of that and just be responsible in terms of your positioning. Like, just because these names were killing it for the last 2 weeks, I wouldn't get so married to these themes and really, like, overexpose yourself. Like, it's definitely, perfectly fine to have exposure, but just be careful, just in case these things, take their next leg lower. This is one that I have on my timestamped. I have March calls in Slack. This is a funny one because Slack is one that gets absolutely no love, and it really has been an underperformer in terms of, these tech companies. But I do think that Slack just has a lot of optionality, and I think sentiment is just so bad for this specific name that I do have a long position. You can see there's a decent short float, about 14%. Yeah, now my position really, like, just turned green today. But this again, if these tech companies start selling off, I will have to be cognizant of my, Slack position as well, that, this one could go right back down to 24. So that's something I need to be, cognizant of as well. So let's take a look. So we have these sectors. Yeah, and it looks like in terms of the laggards, GDX caught a bid, which is interesting because that could very well just be some shorts covering. KWeb, the Chinese technology, that one has been pretty good, up 1.6%. So very interesting under the surface. Like, depending on which areas you targeted, even though the broad market was down, you could have made, some money on the bull side as well. So in terms of these style factors, almost everything was down. Only ones that were up were international value and international momentum. So really just international as a whole. We had high beta down. Look at high beta. It's been up about 20% this month. Took a little bit of a breather, and really just everything down for the day. So some of my trades that I closed out, landing the plane today. So let's see. Okay, looks like I forgot to include this one, but DraftKings. This is one, I've had a long history trading DraftKings and really just being a DraftKings investor. Okay, this is the trade right here. I sold, 2 tranches of DraftKings puts. And for this second tranche, this was where I got super bold. So this was October 16th that I put this one on. If you take a look at where we were trading October 16th, it's October 21st. October 16th right here. So this was already when DraftKings was pretty much falling apart. And I basically said, like, I'm going to sell an at-the-money put because I think this thing is so oversold. And, I just think there's more meat on the bone if I go at the money. Sure enough, this thing fell an additional, $10 from where I put the trade on. But that's the good thing about selling puts in companies that you do have that long-term vision for. And, you don't really mind buying it a little bit cheaper. That's where short puts work out. I think where short puts don't work out is, if for fundamental reasons a company is really just in a downtrend and you're selling puts on it, that's where you can end up in a sticky situation, or if you oversize your position. But this one worked out. My puts expired worthless, and I collected the premium. JKS, this is another one I sold a put on. I sold the 50 strike puts for November for $2.40. This is a trade that I'm pretty proud of. I think this one, it was just like a very elegant trade. Let's see, this one, JKS, this one had such strong momentum. Look at the run this company had. Pretty much parabolic in October. It ended up having a huge red candle. And I believe right here, October 22nd, was where I was like, you know what? The implied volatility is so high in this name. I'm going to sell some puts. And I sold the 50 strike. So you can see this one never got anywhere near 50. And honestly, I like this solar theme. I think this company is called Jinko Solar. Yeah, Jinko Solar. It's a Chinese company. This one is putting in a very nice base. So I'll definitely be looking at this one. And then just side tangent, another one I'm looking at. No, not this one. Yeah, SunPower. This is another one that's in a very bullish trend. So this is a leader within the sector. And this is one Wasteland Capital. Shout out to Wasteland. He's a great follow, so follow him if you're not already. But he actually called this one out on Twitter earlier, and I think he's been long. So this is one where I already have my TAN, the solar ETF calls. If I want to get even bigger in the sector, this is definitely one I'll probably be looking at. And then we had AMD. This was my big one for the month. I put this butterfly on November 12th, so really just a week and a half ago. And I put on the 80, 85, 90 butterfly, which is basically saying I hope that AMD pins at 85 for options expiration. Put that on for $1.52. Ended up closing it for $4.54 today. So that was, almost a 200% return, which was awesome. And AMD, and maybe I shouldn't give away too much secret sauce here. So maybe I won't get into that. But this one, basically, pinned very close. So if we look at, ends up closing at 84 and change. But this one, tagged the value area high. And, just pinned nicely. So that was a good one. And then some other trades. This was my SPY Lotto trade. And this was in case things broke to the upside and just went, stupidly bullish for the day. This one was hoping that SPY pinned at 360. And SPY ended up, closing at 355 or something. So nowhere near that target. However, for this one, I received a tiny credit. Nothing meaningful. But what's kind of cool about these broken wing butterflies is you get a lotto ticket, and if the trade just doesn't go your way, to one side, you can actually just keep the credit. So it's almost like getting paid, to put on a lotto ticket. I like these trades. And then the other one, this was my NEO earnings trade. This one, I was hoping that NEO would pin at 53, or really anywhere between 50 and change to 56 and change. This one was in play at one point today. So if you take a look at NEO. Yeah, NEO pushed up to 50-50. So, in a perfect world, I would have taken the trade-off right there, and I could have made a little bit more. But I wanted to see, is NEO going to have a blow-off run and, get into the 50s? But it didn't happen, so I just kept the small credit received. So no harm, no foul there. I'll take the, the small credit. So now, really quickly, we're going to go into the order flow that we saw today, and then I'll sort of walk you through my game plan for this weekend and really the month ahead. So let's see. You can see everyone's buying calls, guys. I saw somebody on Twitter the other night post unpopular opinion, but I think SPY is going to go super bullish. And across almost every sentiment indicator I'm watching, sentiment is very hot. Everybody thinks that because we have this vaccine, there's just no way that we're not going to rally. And we certainly could. In my opinion, if we do end up just having a blistering rally into year end, it's because everyone is piled in and there's just nothing to stop the momentum. But it's definitely not contrarian to be bullish here. So you can see everybody was buying calls. We'll filter to the 1 million and above. And you can see people getting bullish in Tesla. Somebody put down a couple million on that. Oh, people expressing some bearish views on Tesla as well into June and September of 2022. Wow, I rarely see this actually. So these are like long-term bearish bets on Tesla. That's never worked out for anybody betting against Tesla, so good luck to these guys. Then we have an Etsy player for March. We have Nvidia player. Wow, a lot of activity in Tesla today. Then you got the Neo player. So like these are pretty much the Momo names like everybody always goes after. But then you do have some puts in there as well. So this is some pretty interesting action. And then I'm going to be posting my affiliate link for Cheddarflow in the description of this video. They are having a Black Friday 40% sale. So if you're interested in using Cheddarflow, feel free to click my link. You can get a 7-day free trial. But like I always say, I do enjoy posting this content out for free and going through it with you guys, so no pressure either way. Last thing I want to be is like, shilling you guys something you don't want or, don't need. But I really enjoy using Cheddarflow. It's pretty much like my favorite trading tool. So last but not least, we're just going to talk about, what I am thinking for the weekend and really just getting myself oriented for next month. So like this weekend, I'm just going to be game planning. So like, like I said, my exposure coming in, I'm a little bit lighter and a little bit tighter in terms of my net exposure because I do have, 2 short positions on. So at this point, I think I'm in a spot where I can be pretty nimble going into next month, and that's really what I was going for. We're like, okay, if this thing resolves to the upside, no problem, I'll jump on board. If this thing resolves to the downside, I do have a little bit of protection on, and I can buy the dip. So I'm going to be working on this weekend really just a comprehensive watch list. And I want to think about like what sectors do I want to be exposed to, what style factors, what themes, like all those sorts of things. Like for instance, like cryptocurrency, I have a very small portfolio exposure, but cryptocurrency has some very strong momentum. And it seems like it's starting to get to that point where it's like the beginning of a bubble where it's like it's going up so much and everybody is sort of like looking at around the room like, do I not have enough exposure to crypto? And this is completely intuitive. It's really just like my own gauge of animal spirits. But typically when that happens, that's when you can get sort of like the beginning of a parabolic run. So I will have to decide like, is this a theme I want to add a little bit more exposure to? I'm not going to go crazy, but might be something I want to add a little bit to. And then there's some other themes as well that I'm going to be checking out. And then really for the beginning of next week, I'm just going to be watching the indices and just seeing like, are we going to take out that weekly value area low? Are we just going to bounce above the value area high and start trending upward next month? Like, I just want to be cognizant of like what's going on. Are we taking out upside or downside levels? And then position accordingly from there. So that about does it for my recap video. Congrats to everybody for making it through OPEX. I hope you all did very well this month. And I appreciate you spending a little bit of your time with me on Friday.